So hi, one of the Good Nights podcast with Bryson from Topiary Creatures. We're going to ask them some questions today about their new album, Tangible Problems. I'm going to start, so congrats on that release, by the way. How do you feel about the response to it so far?
The response has been excellent. I'm generally of the mindset to where once I make it, just like for myself, and it's on my own iPod or like in the group text for the homies to listen to, like anything after that is a bonus. So the fact that like people are DMing me and being like, "Yo, this lyric like helped me like through some shit," or like the fact that it's like getting on playlists and stuff has been like, it all feels like just some huge bonus. So yeah, definitely been stoked and humbled.
Yeah. Wait, so have you been getting on more like gamer playlists?
Not anymore that I know of. Sometimes I'll
Oh,
see one pop up a little bit. There's a bunch of just random editorial ones that we get in on Spotify that confuse me. Like we got it on a military like workout motivation playlist.
what?
So man, the theme of Topiary Creatures getting on weird playlists is just that's
It's
gonna
just,
be a thing now.
it's the
It's crazy.
brand. Your brand is just
Exactly.
weird playlists.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You love to see it. All right. So, what was your writing process like for this record?
Oh man. My writing process I think is probably a little different than most people's because I have like very rigid rules that I hold myself to. Like I think the biggest one is that I have to write instrumentals and poems separately.
Mm.
So I'm always like writing poems on the side about things that I'm thinking about, and then writing instrumentals, and then kind of just play matchmaker somewhere in the middle. Because I found that if I play like a riff or a chord progression I like, sometimes if I like it enough, sometimes I'll subconsciously be okay with just like a really average lyric on it, and vice versa. So making sure that the two can like stand alone on their own has been uh, a good exercise for me. So yeah, it's been doing a lot of that, and then just like taking a lot of time to like rewrite songs a million times. I actually like, I'll show you right now. Like there's these pieces of tape up here. And
Hmm.
whenever I'm working on a new album, I just literally move them around all the time of like what's working, what's not, like writing notes to myself. So a lot of revising and just being a hermit and not coming out of my room for a few days until I'm stoked on something.
All right.
That's fair.
I like
Cool.
that.
Hmm.
So can you tell me about your headspace while creating this album?
Hmm. Well, the record was written over, I think, like a year and a half, maybe 2 years. So it was a bunch of different stuff. But I think the line in the record that summarizes my headspace the best is from a song called Greener that says, "I may never understand what's always wrong, what's always off." So as soon as I wrote that song, I was like, "Oh damn! Like that's the idea. Is like writing songs of stories of people, whether it's myself or other people, like craving a manifestation of their problems or the anxiety so they can fix it." So I feel like I was trapped in that headspace for a long time. So as soon as I had um, that kind of handle of like tangible problems, like that's the quippy line that you like write around. It became a lot easier to like formulate the album. So
Okay. All right. So, what made you choose the name Tangible Problems? And is there any meaning behind the cover art?
yes, oh man, the cover art was quite an ordeal to shoot. So when we actually did so many versions of the cover art. I even had like a friend fly out from Texas to San Francisco to like do this film photo shoot for everything, and I felt like a jerk because in the end I was like, oh, I just had this other idea that I like more, and we had so
Oh.
many different versions. But what I wanted to do for the cover art, I knew I wanted to have like something that was very clearly a photo shoot, something that was staged, that was adorning the subject matter, but the subject matter being negative to kind of
Hmm.
capture the irony and wishing for like tangible problems. So what we ended up going with was I bought just literal little tangible wooden figurines that represented bad things. So like weapons and like dangerous animals and all this stuff. And I also just like really like wood stuff. As you can see, it's like all over my room too. So that kind of fit in with my personal vibe. So yeah, once we put all those little quote tangible problems together on a black backdrop, I was just like, honestly, that's so much more simple. We just have to use that. And then we ended up having 11 of the little figurines, and there's 11 songs on the record. And I have like really strong color associations with all the songs. So we shot each of the figures on different color backdrops, so like all the songs kind of have their own album cover. I wanted to use it as like the Spotify canvas things, like the full screen videos that they have on those, but I think Spotify, like, I don't know, it's kind of hard to get it on there, but Bandcamp let me upload it like that, so props to Bandcamp.
Thanks, Bandcamp.
Yeah.
Bandcamp's
That's so cool.
Except when they shaft us out of the $5 that someone paid for the EP we just dropped.
Wait, no way. What's that?
Yeah, we dropped an EP, and then like they took the $5 because we had a CD that we were selling, so they didn't get the revenue share from that, so they kept like a balance and just took from the EP sale. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. So.
That's strange. I feel like Bandcamp is that because you guys were like a podcast on there, or?
I don't think so. It's just like, this is our revenue share, and it was 0. And I was like, wait, what happened to the $5?
Charity.
What? Bro. Yeah, that's strange as heck. I feel like usually, or at least they have a reputation for being like good to their bands, and like, I mean, I for one, but get paid way more. Yeah. Than as opposed to like Spotify or Apple Music or any of those.
Yeah. Well, maybe they just hate podcasts. Yeah, maybe they heard through the grapevine.
Maybe they know you. It's a personal vendetta of some sort that we don't know about.
That'd be horrifying. Yeah.
Shane's making enemies somewhere that you're not aware of.
All over the place.
Every second of the day.
Everyone. So did you touch on the name at all? Like what that means? Did we lose him?
Did we lose Bryson? I think we lost Bryson.
I can hear you. I can hear you. Are we back? We're back. Okay.
I think we're back. Okay. So did you hear my question?
Sorry, I did not.
Okay. So did you touch on the album name at all?
The album name, Tangible Problems. Yeah, I feel like I kind of indirectly touched on it. There's a line in the outro song in the record that says, "I'd kill for tangible problems because then I'd learn how to solve them." And I feel like that in context with the rest of the lyrics is probably as straight of a definition as I could give.
Okay. So what band or artist influences do you think you can hear the most on this new record?
Oh, good question. So I would hope anyone that listens to our record can clearly hear that it's a huge hodgepodge of things. I think the main ones that I took inspiration from that I would hope people would hear as kind of the bedrock is like The Hotelier, The World Is, The Brave Little Abacus, because those were kind of like my 3 favorite bands at the time of writing this. But like the things that people say, it sounds like, always confuse me. Like I got Coheed and Cambria this week, which I was like, wouldn't have put that on there, but I fuck with it. But yeah, I think for as far as like my influences, what I'm trying to do, I definitely cherry pick little things I'm trying to include. Like, so we have this baseline of like indie rock, emo stuff, and then like there's this Swedish composer named Wintergatan who I'm obsessed with, who writes this really like chirpy, whimsical, like soundtracky music, and I feel like I rip off him a lot. Like that's like part of why our record has so many like glockenspiels and synth bells, and then I also take a lot of cues from like Japanese rock bands, which I don't think a lot of people would like necessarily pick up on that, but the way that bands like Veld Punch and Uchu Konbini and Kana Boon, like the way those Japanese bands like write their vocal melodies is so like, it's so calculated and all over the place, and it's just like, I think something about those bands seems like less allergic to like being cheesy maybe, so it frees them up to try like crazier arrangements and melodies, and that's something that I've been super inspired by and think about a lot. So so that's probably a super long-winded answer, but yeah, those are, and then I think you hear like little bits of the heavier music that I listen to probably seeps in there some. Like I remember when we were recording the screams for the record, Chris Teddy, my producer, was like, "You're not a screamo band, but you're definitely screamo curious." And I think that's correct. Like sometimes you'll be like, he maybe listens to William Bonney or something.
Yeah, when you ripped out the screams, I was like, what the fuck am I listening to now? Because it's funny that you say it's a hodgepodge, because like each song changes.
Yeah.
So yeah. I like that. as
I'm
well.
I'm glad that comes across because that was definitely something I was trying to do. Like the Brave Little Abacus does it a lot. Like Jeff Rosenstock does it a lot. I've always been I've always just been much more entertained by that. Like so, I know it's like cool to have songs that are like, oh dude, we're just like vibing on the same rhythm. Like especially with the more trendy like emo stuff. Like I don't know, like Turnover and Gleamer and that kind of stuff. Like that's cool and I vibe with that, but stuff that like keeps me up at night inspired is more like what you were saying. Like it turns on a dime and can be like a million different things in one song.
Yeah.
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 Sick. Okay. So this is a new question we have. So walk with me. Haha. Imagine that like there's a person listening to this and they're like, okay, I want to check out this album, but I don't know what to expect. I want you to describe your album in 3 words.
Oh man. Okay. Thrashy, sparkly, and intricate.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe. I hope so. That's at least what I was trying to do.
Okay.
All right.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
I like that.
That's cool.
All right.
Yeah.
So is there a certain feeling you want your listeners to have while listening to the record?
It's another good question. I feel like if it's a really good song, or a good record, it's gonna give you a million different emotions in one. So I think, like some of my favorite songs I listen to and I'm like, I connect with the lyric and then I'm really sad for a second because it like touches something in me that I realize. And then, but also I'm like, you get really stoked to like realize the person singing that is feeling the same thing as you. And it just, I think the best records, have a roller coaster of emotions, but I think the ultimate takeaway from all those emotions is the feeling of like connectedness. So whenever someone messages me and is like, yo, this lyric that's like a really specific weird thing to say, but I'm really glad you said that because like I relate with it so much, and I that kind of stuff makes me the happiest because when I'm writing these songs, I'm like, this is a weird thing for me to think. I don't know if anybody else in the world like relates to this. So I think using music as kind of a connection for people like that, like, hey, you're not alone. Just kind of with your thoughts or your struggles is kind of the goal for me. No matter what emotion is the vehicle to that feeling, I think that feeling is the goal.
Okay. Sick. So how did you choose the opener and closer for this album? Did you write them to be that way, or did they just kind of shuffle and fall into those positions?
That's a very good question. The opener and closer songs were probably the 2 songs that took me the longest to write. The opening song was actually kind of like, because when I'm writing songs, I like have on my notes app on my phone, I'm always just like throughout the day, like, oh, here's a one-liner. I'll think about it later, come back to it. And eventually I did so many of those over the span of this 1 year in my life that I was kind of in the dumps. And I went back and read them all. And I was like, holy shit, this is like actually writes a pretty cohesive story. So that's what became Disposable Year, the intro song on the record. I feel like that song is pretty special to me because it feels like very cumulative, representative of my season of life. And then the closer song was much more pinpointed. Like I need to write a closer song. Like this album needs to say, I'd kill for tangible problems. So that song got rewritten the most, and I was still rewriting it. Like when I went to the studio too, I think I had sent Chris like so many different versions of that because I'm like, oh no, I got this new like second bridge that's way faster, and then I would change my mind. So, those 2 songs are definitely like, because I felt like they had to do the record justice lyrically and thematically and stuff. So they definitely were both written as intro and closer songs.
Okay. Wow, that's cool.
So if and when live shows come back, what are 3 songs that you're looking forward to playing live off of this record?
That's a good question too. So when we had played shows before the apocalypse hit, we'd done a lot of these, and Depends on the Day You Ask Me is always a favorite just because that mathy like guitars passing back and forth in the bridge is so fun, and the screaming part. And then one song that the one song we never played live was the outro track. No, really, it's great. I have this reaction to everything. So I was texting with my drummer the other day, like, man, that's the one that we still really need to do. So that one, and then I think Osaka is another one that's really fun to play live, because we never played that one at a show, but we had practiced it and finally gotten it all together and ready. So that was kind of like the rug got pulled out from under us from playing Osaka live also.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
So we know you literally just dropped Tangible Problems, but are there any other projects on the horizon?
Yes, I'm like I'm way too creatively antsy, especially with all this forced time inside. Yeah, I've been writing a ton. I'm kind of in that stage now to where I remember Jack Antonoff had a really good, I don't know if you know who he is. He's like Bleachers, Steel Train, this like indie rock producer guy. He had this really good way of thinking of when you're writing an album, like before you conceptualize the album, you're just writing songs. You're just throwing them at a wall. Literally, like with my wall here with the tape, it's just like, here's a ton of songs. And once you like have kind of exhausted that muscle, you can step back and you're like, oh, there's sort of a shape of an album in there. And then you start to write to fill holes, and then you have the record there. So I'm kind of in that stage now of just like writing a ton of stuff. But yeah, I'm like really stoked and definitely in the inspired mode again to start working on some stuff.
All right.
But production always takes so long. Like this record, Tangible Problems, was finished, like all the writing was finished a year ago this time, and then we recorded it and produced it, and it just, yeah, shit takes that long, but sadly. But to answer your question more shortly, yes, working on a bunch of other stuff.
That's exciting.
All right, yeah.
I'll be posting cryptic little teasers on Instagram and stuff.
Oh, all right. I'll keep my eye out.
Yeah.
So that is all the questions we have today. Is there anything you'd like to plug?
Anything I'd like to plug? We have a vinyl that we just ordered of the record. That's like this really cool splatter stuff. So DM me if you want a vinyl. I don't have like a fulfillment store. I just have this massive list on my phone of like this person, this address. So yeah, stream the record, get a vinyl, check in on your friends during quarantine. That's always a good thing. And call everyone, and call your mom. Can I plug calling your mom? That's a good thing to do too. Yeah.
All right. Well,
wholesome.
Thank you for sitting down with us.
Wholesome.
This has been Bryson from Topiary Creatures and We're the Good Noise Podcast.